Hey everyone, I apologize this video took so long. It's been a busy past few weeks for me. Or has it been more like a month or so? Anyways, in an effort to expedite the release of this video, and get to your next round of 18k questions before I hit 19k, I decided to just release this as a podcast style video. Just my audio with little to no visuals. I hope you all understand. Plus, this would kind of be a good test to see if you guys would be interested in me doing a podcast. A friend of mine was telling me recently that I should really do a podcast or something like that as a Patreon or YouTube membership exclusive. So I guess we'll see. If this video does well, maybe that's something I'll do in the future. Well, I am finally back with my answers to your questions from my 17 subscribers special video. And now I'm already at 18k and halfway to 19k. It's truly amazing. Thank you all so much. In that case, I guess we'll have back-to-back subscriber special Q&As. So the same rules apply as before. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please limit yourself to one question. That way I can get to as many people as possible. And please use the hashtag AskUltra18k. That way it'll make it easier for me to find your questions. So without any further ado, on to your questions. Our first question comes from Yolanda Pace Ray. Yolanda asks, will you ever make a series with your OC? Thank you for your question, Yolanda. As much as I would love to, I don't think I could ever do a series with my OC. Unless by some miracle I got to work on an actual Transformers cartoon and could find a way to sneak her in there. But to kind of combine your question with Emma J. Baines's, will you ever release any comics about your OC, Ultra Primal? I've had a lot of fiction in my head about my OC for a long time. And I've been meaning to write a comic or something like that about her, but it's kind of been a low priority project. However, as I kind of just mentioned, one of my dream jobs would be the chance to become a writer on a Transformers show, or a comic, or other piece of fiction. But I've never really put out any of my story ideas other than in some of my videos. And I was recommended by a friend recently who has worked for Hasbro that the best way to get that kind of job is to actually have some pieces of work for you to present as examples. And I know from some of the writers of Cyberverse, for example, they got their start writing fanfiction, and then transitioned into writing officially. So I think I might start working on a comic for my OC to help show that I can actually write stories and stuff, just in case Hasbro or whoever want to hire me. I would probably want my friend Hel to draw it for me. But, of course, I would need to pay her. She can't work for free, you know? So maybe I'll make it a membership incentive, or a Patreon exclusive, or something like that. You know, if I ever launch memberships on the channel, or do anything with my Patreon. I'd have to see how that might work. But yes, the short answer is, I definitely want to start producing a comic about my OC. Maybe that'll be a New Year's resolution or something. Next up, we have a question from Alexander Bednarek. Alexander asks, hey Ultra Primal, when will you start your gaming channel and play Transformers Fall of Cybertron? Thank you for your question, Alexander. Speaking of projects in development, I have been slowly inching my way towards actually making a gaming channel. I've been talking to a friend who is interested in doing it with me, so we're probably going to do a Game Grumps style thing. Just because that would be a lot more interesting than just me trying to talk and play at the same time. I mean, just look back at any of my old Let's Play videos on the channel. Or rather, don't, because they're all pretty horrible. But that will probably be another New Year's resolution type of thing. We'll probably only post once or maybe twice a week. We both have our own channels to worry about. So unless it really does end up becoming like a Game Grumps style situation, where the gameplay channel blows up and becomes huge, it'll probably stay like a once a week type of thing. Although, I don't know if we'd do Fall of Cybertron. We are both Transformers fans, but that seems like more of a main channel thing. Then again, that would be a good way to get people to come check out our gaming channel. Start with Transformers, and then branch out from there. We'll have to think about that. Next, we have ArcBricks with a question. ArcBricks asks, what was it like making your OC? And do you have any tips for people trying to make their own? Thank you for your question, ArcBricks. So, visually, my OC is basically a mix of two of my favorite Transformers, Six-Shot and Jetfire, with a few other influences sprinkled in here or there. The same goes for her personality and backstory. They're kind of a blend of a number of ideas, which you'll see when I eventually do that comic I mentioned. I've been working on my OC for a long time, so I've kind of revised her a lot over the years. She wasn't always female. She wasn't always a Titan Master. She wasn't always from an alternate universe. So take your time, and don't be afraid to change your mind. As for making your own, I don't know what other advice to give, other than to look at official characters and see what you like about them. Maybe try to incorporate that into your OC. And especially if this is kind of like a Transformers persona self-insert OC like mine, then I would say be true to yourself, who you are, and who you want to be. Also, don't follow my example and try not to be too much of a Mary Sue. Everyone has flaws. Don't be afraid to give your OC some strengths and weaknesses. Our next question comes from Blue Ink 22, who asks, what are your thoughts on Mega Empress and her Foreguard? Thank you for your question, Blue Ink 22. I really like Mega Empress and her Foreguard. They are so cute! I like that they're all named after card suits. It kind of reminds me of the Royal Flush Gang from DC. I like that they're all connected to other big Decepticons. Mega Empress being built from spare parts that were used to create Megatron, kind of making her the Eve to his Adam. Luna Club basically being a Starscream fangirl is super adorable. And honestly, how can you blame her? Starscream is usually pretty awesome, no matter the continuity. Moonheart is her twin sister, and she worked with Soundwave and developed a crush on him. Aww, that's so cute! And I love her name, Moonheart. It sounds like a Care Bear's name. It's so adorable. And she's blue. So you know how I feel about blue bots. Aww. I think I'm starting to develop a crush on her myself. Flo Spade was an agent of Shockwave sent to spy on Mega Empress. But then she won her over and became a legitimate member of her guard. Which I think is pretty cool and sounds like a character from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Plus, she looks like Nightbird. Although she surprisingly has no direct ties to her that I'm aware of. But still, she looks pretty cool. And then there's Trick Diamond, who apparently has ties to Swindle, the Quintessons, and even Unicron? Really? I need to go back and read some of those Takara Legends mangas. And now she's in the new IDW comic continuity? That's awesome! I hope the rest of the girls are introduced in it and more fiction. Plus, it's pretty cool that each member apparently has power over an element like from Avatar. Trick Diamond is an earthbender, Flo Spade is an airbender, Moonheart is a waterbender, and Luna Club is a firebender. Apparently Mega Empress's power is seduction? The TF Wiki saying, and I quote, she has the secret power to seduce any male Transformer into doing her bidding. So would I be immune or not? But anyways, that kind of sounds like Heart to me, so maybe they're more like Captain Planet. After all, they do combine as well. But yes, I love Mega Empress and her gang. I hope we get new versions of them in future fiction. I'd love to see them face off against Elita 1 and her crew. Hey, why isn't that a show, Hasbro? Forget Optimus Prime versus Megatron. Give me a show that's just fembots. with Elita 1 and Mega Empress as the faction leaders. Next, we have Ayman Bustelos with the question. Ayman asks, which Megatron is your favorite? Thank you for your question, Ayman. I'd have to say that my favorite Megatron would have to be Beast Wars Megatron. I just think overall he is a more interesting character. He's accomplished more, and he's had better writing. G1 Megatron is great. I love the campiness of G1. Animated Megatron is also great, but I wish he had more screen time, and wasn't just a giant head for a whole season. But yeah, Beast Megatron is my favorite. Although I still have to read more of the IDW comics, and apparently people really like Autobot Megatron, so I still have to see why people are into him. Our next question comes from someone with the username, I don't comment much, I just mostly like. And they ask, if asked by Hasbro, how would you do a sequel to Rescue Bots Academy? Thank you for your question. Oh, now this is a good question. Okay, Hasbro, are you listening? I hope you are. I would begin the series by doing a quick recap of the previous two. Basically just establishing that there were the original Rescue Bots and the Rescue Bot recruits prior to this series. And I'd set this new one several years after Rescue Bots Academy, with the humans finally learning about the Transformers, as they seemingly did at the end of Crash of the Titan. I mean, we had a Titan Transformer almost crash into a human city. I'm sure somebody noticed. I'd say that tensions were high between humans and their robotic invaders from outer space. But after a while, with the help of various human allies, the people of Earth eventually became friends with the Transformers. Then I'd start by introducing our new characters. I'd want to start with a fresh class of new recruits. But I'd still keep the previous recruits, now full-fledged rescue bots, who will now be playing the role of teaching and mentoring these young new bots. What's more, the Transformers aren't alone in their training this time. As part of the Transformers working together with humans more, each of the recruits will be paired up with a human partner from the very beginning, kind of like the original Rescue Bots. Each pair having to work together as they both learn to be part of a greater rescue team. The humans would be easy because I'd want to be really geeky and homage a bunch of past human companions. First, we'd have the child of Cody Burns and Frankie Green, because, let's be honest, those two would get together sooner or later, right? Not sure if they'd be a boy or a girl, although I'm inclined to say girl. Let's call her Clara. Clara Burns. Doesn't sound too bad if you ask me. Her name would initially be an homage to Clara from Back to the Future, referencing how the Greens constantly made their own subtle references to my favorite film franchise in the original Rescue Bots. But later in the series, I'd reveal that Clara was actually the name of Cody's mother, who died when Cody was just a baby. See, one of the things that I'd like to do in this series is have flashbacks, kind of like in Cyberverse, where maybe most of the story of the episode actually takes place in the flashback, and serves as a lesson for the young new recruits. That way, if I want to tell a story set in the original Rescue Bots Academy, or even Prime or Robots in Disguise, I can. Next, we'd have the child of Jack and Miko from Transformers Prime. Because, again, let's face it, we all ship them. So I'm pretty sure they'd eventually get together after the series. And again, I'm not sure which they'd have, a boy or a girl. But I guess since I went with girl last time, I should go with boy this time. Not sure what his name would be, but it would probably be something cool considering his mom is Miko. Next, we'd have Jan from Victory. And like the original, he would be an orphan, found by the old Rescue Bot recruits during one of their rescue missions. He'd be adopted by them and basically live at the academy. Then we'd have Sari, based on the animated character. And much like the original, it would be revealed later in the series that she was actually part Cybertronian. However, in kind of a reference to Wedge being a former Decepticon, it would turn out that she had a dark origin, as she was originally built by one of the old villains. Whether it be Mech or Morocco or someone like that, I don't know. I still haven't thought that far. But basically, her original goal would be to infiltrate the team for nefarious purposes, but after working with the team and befriending them, she eventually turns good and goes against her creators/parents. And finally, we have Daniel. Basically, this would be G1 Daniel's redemption. I know some people didn't like the original Daniel. Personally, I didn't mind him. But this version of him would be kind of a shy but likable kid. Very much like Graham or Hoist or Medics. Very tech savvy, but kind of socially awkward. So I think that's a good mix of human characters. I do really want to bring in some references to the humans from the Unicron trilogy, but maybe they can join the team in Season 2. As for the actual robots, honestly, most of that would be kind of up to Hasbro and which trademarks they want to renew. I really wanted to have my boy Jetfire in here, maybe even do a gender-swapped version, which I think would be super cute. But we already have a Jetfire in the Cybertron games, which is technically part of this continuity. Then again, we also have multiple characters named Hotshot and Whirl and Grimlock, so why not Jetfire too? Alternatively, I think Starsaber would be a good choice, especially if paired with Jan. But I just don't see how the whole Saber part would really fit on a rescue team. Next, we'd have Red Alert, mostly based on the Unicron trilogy character, although I wouldn't mind if they were a girl like in Animated. We technically already have a more G1 inspired Red Alert in the aligned continuity, but like Jetfire, I think there's more than enough room for 2 Red Alerts. Although this Red Alert would be a mix of both Armada and G1, since they'd look more like their Armada counterpart, but play more of the role of the fire and security chief. Then we'd have Minerva, because honestly, this girl needs to be in more fiction. Like, seriously Hasbro, give me more Minerva. And not to mention, she would make a great rescue bot, specializing in medical emergencies like medics and blades. Likewise, I think Nightbeat would be a good choice. Again, they could be a boy like G1 Nightbeat, or a girl like her animated counterpart. But they would be more of the police detective rescue bot, definitely taking after Whirl when she would go into detective mode. Now, we need some kind of construction bot, someone who's big and strong. Honestly, I was thinking maybe Clobber, even though she's not a construction vehicle. Or at least I don't think she is. It'd be nice to have a big girl on the team who doesn't conform to the stereotypical female body types. But since she is supposed to be the construction vehicle on the team, I think she should also be an engineer too, like Boulder and Hoist. So I think maybe someone like Holler or Grapple might be a better choice. And finally, we have the Beast on the team, because honestly, I think this team could use a Beastie, and Beast bots need more representation. This, I think, could be someone like Wolfang, or K9, or even Silverbolt, depending on what trademark Hasbro wants to save with this character. They would be a cute little doggy bot, and they'd perform the role of being a police dog, sniffing out trouble, or saving people trapped under debris or other confined spaces, being able to squeeze into places that the larger bots can't. So yeah, those are the characters that I'd choose for a Rescue Bots Academy sequel. But I definitely broaden the scope of the show. These rescue workers would do more international rescues, giving us the chance to educate kids on different parts of the world. They'd even do intergalactic rescues, maybe visiting Cybertron, or Nebulos, or Eucharis, or other places like that. Maybe we could use them as analogies for different cultures. But yeah, that's my initial pitch for a sequel to Rescue Bots Academy. A new class of recruits, a new group of human partners, much like the original Burns family. But this time they're all based on a variety of other human companions throughout Transformers history. And all of them are being taught by the original recruits from Rescue Bots Academy, now full-fledged rescue bots in their own right. And there's a bigger emphasis on humans now knowing who the Transformers are. More diversity and representation. And also the occasional flashback episode that expands and helps bridge the gap between some of the previous shows. Next up, we've got a question from Soundwave? Really? The Soundwave? Okay, well, Soundwave asks, if you could form a combiner with any 4 or 5 Transformers, who would you pick? Thank you for your question, Soundwave. And give Ravage, Laserbeak, and your other cassettes some pets for me, okay? Thanks. This is a tough one. Let's go with 4. That way it's the Scramble City style and easier on me. I assume that I'd form the torso. I think for the legs I'd choose Blur and Mirage, just because they're the fastest bots that I can think of, so I imagine that they'd make for some fast combiner legs. Or if they were arms, I could do that whole JoJo's Bizarre Adventure speed punching thing. You know, the thing where they go, "Ororororora." And they're both blue. And you know how much I love blue bots. Then I'd pick Bulkhead and Boulder to be the arms, because I think they would make for some strong arms, or strong legs. And they're both green, so color matching again. I was going to say Strong Arm, because her name is literally Strong Arm. And she's blue too. But I think I need to watch more of Robots in Disguise to learn more about her. Besides, she's already part of a combiner form that I know of. And who would I get to go with her to match her color scheme? Chromia? Blue Streak? Well, anyways, I hope I answered your question, Soundwave. Ooh, maybe I should have Soundwave as an arm. Our next question comes from Bumbleboys, who asks, really random question, but if your OC were to have a girls' night out with some of the female characters of different Transformers series, who would she go out with? That's a fun question, Bumbleboys. There's so many female characters in Transformers. How many am I allowed to choose? Let's just do 3, otherwise there'd be too many. And 4 is a nice even number. That way I can have the Samantha, Charlotte, and Miranda to my carry. Oh wait, am I more of a Samantha? Never mind. That's not what this question is about. Now, which 3 gal pals would I like to go for a night out with? Well, first would have to be Blades. Oh, wait, Blades is a boy. Okay, never mind. Then I think I'd have to pick RC from Transformers Cyberverse. Because one of the things that I'd like to do on our night out is go to an arcade. And I know that Cyberverse RC likes to play video games. So it'd be a lot of fun playing arcade games with her. Another thing I'd like to do on our night out is to watch a movie. And if I can't have Blades because he's technically a boy, then I think Danny would be a great choice too. After all, the question didn't state that they had to be female Transformer characters or female human characters. Although, that would be really cute and fun to think of too. Aww. Okay, I'm revising my answers and splitting these into 2 groups. My Transformers besties and my human besties. So for the robot ladies, we've got Cyberverse RC so far. And for the human girls, we've got Danny. For the second fembot, see, it's hard because I just want to pick a bunch of girls from Cyberverse. Like, I'd pick Jazz because for one, we never got to see her in the show. But apparently Jazz in Cyberverse is female. And at least according to Wild Will, she's funny. And if she's anything like her G1 counterpart, she'd probably be into music and dancing, which is another thing I'd like to do on our girls' night out. But if I had to choose someone else, for the sake of having different characters from different continuities, let's say Rosanna from G1. She can sing, she can dance, and apparently she's a pop idol. So I think she would be fun to hang out with too. Maybe we can do karaoke together. Similarly, for the second human girl, I'd choose Miko because she's also into music, but she's probably more into heavy metal, so we can rock out together. And I'm sure she'd be up for some arcade games too. And for the last human female, this might be cheating, but I'm going to pick Sari from Animated. Again, I think she'd have similar interests and she'd be fun to hang out with too. And that just leaves our last Robo-Girl gal pal for our night out. I didn't actually end up picking a fembot from the aligned continuity, did I? So many good choices. But I think I'd have to go with my girl Whirl, just because she's so cute and adorable. And she spends all her time hanging out with a bunch of boys. It'd be nice for her to spend some time with some other girls. So yeah, those are my picks. Honestly, there's so many others that I'd like to hang out with, like going racing with Override, or going for a swim with Minerva, but I have to cut myself off somewhere. Next up, we have a question from FJ Gaming, who asks, what was the inspiration for your new human avatar? Thank you for your question, FJ Gaming. My initial inspiration for my human avatar, or my pretender form, or my hollow matter avatar, whatever you want to call it, was originally Marty McFly's outfit from Back to the Future. Because, as you know, I'm such a huge nerd for that franchise. At least, that was her inspiration initially. Obviously, she kind of has her own thing going on. But that was kind of the base. Obviously, I want her human form to reflect her robot form, but still look kind of natural. What she was ultimately inspired by for the most part was my outfit for her that I was going to wear at TFCon Orlando. I think I mentioned it in a previous subscriber special, but since we probably have a lot of new people here, I don't mind repeating myself. Before TFCon Orlando was cancelled, I was actually planning to attend the convention cosplaying as a human version of my OC. I had this whole outfit purchased and ready to go. I was even planning on cosplaying as my OC when I went to Galaxy's Edge. You know, ask the cast members if they know where I can purchase some Energon or a Transwarp drive, stuff like that. See if they would know what I'm talking about and play along, or keep it strictly within the realm of Star Wars. But yeah, that's mainly what my human avatar is based on. There's some little things, like her color, which we modified to give her a little bit more flair and a little more of that anime style. And I think it was Hell who suggested giving her a black undershirt, which I think really helps complete the look. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with her. I'll be looking for more opportunities to use her in future videos. Up next, we have a question from Transformers Rescue Bots. The actual show has a question for me? Well, it asks, why did you start making videos, and how far did you think you were going to get? Thank you for your question, Rescue Bots. I started making videos on YouTube because I enjoyed making videos in school. And I always wanted to do YouTube ever since I watched people like Kal-El Prime, or I Love Mess, or Energon Gal. And, well, I literally have a few pages here written about my journey being a YouTuber. But because this video is already so long, let me just cut to the chase and say that I never thought I would get this far. Getting to 18,000 subscribers is still just as surprising to me as my first 1,000. I am truly humbled and honored and grateful to everyone who watches my videos. And honestly, I would not be here if it wasn't for all of you. I love you all so much. Our next question comes from Destiny Star World, who asks, do you like magical girl anime? Thank you for your question, Destiny Star World. I do like magical girl anime, or at least I did when I was a kid. I used to watch Sailor Moon and Cardcaptors, but I haven't really watched any of those types of shows in a long time. I really need to watch more of that new Sailor Moon show when I get a chance. If you have any you recommend, let me know down in the comments, and maybe I'll check them out. Next up, we have a question from My Skinny Dip, who asks, if Hasbro were to consult you, Do you have any ideas or storylines ready for a movie or new series? If yes, can you give a few quick ideas? Thank you for your question, my skinny dip. Well, I did give an idea for a Rescue Bot sequel earlier, and I did give a couple ideas for specials in my recent War Dawn review. That kind of dates when I wrote this. Maybe I should have saved those for this. Oh well, here's a couple more. I hope you're still listening, Hasbro. One idea is that I'd like to see the Transformers do a series that harkened back to their Microman roots. Think of Digimon or Pokemon meets Rescue Bots meets Power Rangers, where it focuses on a child protagonist, or multiple ones, who work with the Autobots, which are all disguised as common household objects or toys. But when it's time to answer an emergency call, or even fight Decepticons, they transform and mass shift into giant robots, with the kids either standing on the sideline cheering them on, or maybe as passengers inside the giant robots. Of course, there would be plenty of cute moments where the kid is hiding the Transformers from their parents, dismissing mysterious voices that they heard as just them playing with their toys. Hasbro could maybe even use this as a way to do a massive crossover between some of their other toy brands and Transformers, like a Rubik's Cube Transformer, or a G.I. Joe vehicle Transformer, or a Gem Car Transformer. This could even be a live-action Transformer show, with the Autobots when they're toy size being portrayed by puppets, and then saving the CGI for the big fight scene at the end of the episode. Or they could even go full Power Ranger style and use actors in suits for both of them. For a movie idea, with all the times they flash back the Transformers in historic or prehistoric times in the Michael Bay movies, we've never gotten a Transformers movie actually set in a previous era, aside from Bumblebee being set in the 80s. I'd like to see a Transformers movie kind of inspired by Wild Wheel from Transformers Cyberverse, Cowboys and Aliens, and Wild Wild West, where it's the Transformers set in the Old West. Something similar to the Bumblebee movie that's small scale. One Autobot outnumbered by Decepticons. Or it could even be one-on-one, with the humans helping turn the tide. Let's say it's an ancestor of the Witwikis that teams up with the Autobot, who must combat the Decepticon who has teamed up with the rich and evil human. Let's say an ancestor of GB Blackrock, who is trying to take over the town. Perhaps it's a Dinobots vs. Shockwave type situation, or Gigawatt in his Back to the Future crossover comic, where this one lone Autobot must protect the Ark from the Decepticon. And we end the movie with the Decepticon being destroyed, and the Autobot going into stasis lock. That is until the mid-credits scene, where he is reactivated centuries later in the modern era by his fellow Autobots, who applaud him for protecting them while they slept. But then in the post-credits scene, we see that the Blackrock's descendants took the Decepticon's remains and studied it and used it to create the modern technology that we have today. Kind of like Sector 7 did. And the scene would end with them sending a signal to the Decepticons. And of course, being a huge fan of Back to the Future and Beast Wars, I would love to work on any kind of Transformers show or movie that involved time travel. But I think I've given you enough ideas for now. Our next question comes from Z Draw. Z asks, what are your thoughts on the Transformers video games? Thank you for your question, Z. I really like the War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron games. I remember liking the first couple of movie games at the time, but going back and playing them now, the controls are a little confusing. Maybe it takes some time to get used to them. If you watch my playthroughs of the two Transformers games for PS2, both the Japanese G1 game and the Transformers Armada game, they are both very hard and very much hindered by their controls. But Call of the Future was at least entertaining for its storyline and its horrible voice acting. I'd love to see a game like that made again, but with better gameplay and voice acting. I guess that's basically what Devastation was, which was also a great game, but I wish it were a lot longer and had a lot more characters. Honestly, I'm disappointed that we never got a sequel to it, or at least some kind of DLC. I would have loved a Beast Wars version of Devastation. That would have been amazing! But yeah, maybe I should do one of those tier list videos sometime and go through and rank every Transformers video game. Would anyone want to watch that? Next up, we have a question from Not Usable, who asks, could you talk about Marvel What If? Sure, Not Usable. I could talk a little bit about Marvel What If. I watched it and I thought the first couple episodes were pretty good. The ending was kind of underwhelming though. Captain Carter definitely gave me some feels. Maybe it's the Saiyan in me, but I love strong women. And I also loved that despite their kind of role reversal, Peggy and Steve still had beautiful romantic chemistry. The T'Challa as Star-Lord one honestly shocked me. I actually skipped the credits. So when I was watching it, I just kept thinking to myself, wow, whoever they got to play T'Challa did a great Chadwick Boseman impression. I gotta watch the credits to find out who it was. Then I see the credits and find out that it actually was Chadwick Boseman. And I'll admit, I cried a little. Obviously, he recorded these parts before he died. But it was such a gift to hear him as T'Challa again. It also didn't hurt that the episode was really good too. The story was great, and Nebula was stunning. But that should be no surprise. You know me and Blue Girls. The other episodes were pretty meh though. The zombie one was okay, and I wish we could have seen Gamora's episode. Apparently that got bumped back to season 2. But I'm still looking forward to the next season. Our next question comes from Aqua Gaming, who asks, hope this wasn't asked before, but what inspired you to make your Transformers OC a hex changer? Thank you for your question, Aqua Gaming. Honestly, the real reason I decided to make my OC a 6-changer is simply because I couldn't pick one mode, or even 2 modes, or 3. Being able to fly as a jet would be so cool. Also, I'd love to have a beast mode because I love Beast Wars. A boat or submarine mode because I love water. A car mode would be fun for racing. And of course, a tank mode for when you just have to blow stuff up. Although, I'd consider my tank mode more of like one of those SWAT tanks with the water cannons. You know, more for fire emergencies or busting through walls or other rescue missions like that. Next up, we've got a question from Vice, who asks, what character from Transformers would you like to see again having a spotlight? For me, probably Ty. I'm surprised she hasn't made much appearances. Thank you so much for your amazing content. Saludos from Chile. Aw, thank you, Vice. And thanks for your question. Ty would be a good one. I definitely want to see the Transformers computers given more character and agency in the future. You know who I would think would make for a good spotlight? Sideways from the Unicron trilogy. Whether it's bringing him into modern fiction, or just explaining his backstory in Armada and Cybertron. I think that would be really interesting. I like seeing characters who have their own agenda outside of the Autobots and Decepticons. So I'd like to see more about him. Our next question comes from Shadow Marauder, who asks, out of all the obscure Transformer characters that exist, who would you want to see in a movie or show? So this is a similar question to the previous one, but I'm going to be more specific and just talk about a character that I'd love to see in a live-action movie. And that character would be Crosswise. I love Crosswise. I thought he was so cool in Cybertron. I love the idea that all the monsters from Legends are actually Decepticons. And Crosswise is kind of like this giant robot Van Helsing. I would love to see a movie about that. And just think of all the cool Decepticon designs they could do based on classic monsters. Plus, we already know Bugatti would let them make a Transformer using their car, because there's drift. And our final question comes from Stormy, who asks, hey Ultra, since you're now canon, that feels good, What was your character doing during the events of Cyberverse? Did she help or did she leave? Good question, Stormy. And yes, it still feels incredible, even weeks later, to think that I am officially canon in Cyberverse and Transformers as a whole. So we had the Quintesson arc, right? Where they explained that the Quintessons are these multiversal beings going around causing trouble in different universes. Which concluded with Megatron jumping to Megatron X's universe, stealing his Matrix, getting some upgrades, and returning back to his own universe. Then of course we had the Season 3 finale, where Megatron X kept teleporting in his perfect Decepticons from his universe, followed by Megatron X finally showing up himself. So that set off a lot of alarms for my OC, since she had been watching for that kind of dimension hopping, just in case the alien force that took over her own original universe somehow found a way of reaching her in her current one. So right after Season 3, she traveled to Cyberverse, kind of crashing Grimlock's little soiree that he had to welcome back Windblade. That's where she met everyone and found out what was going on. Then of course there was the whole celebration to sign the peace treaty. Of course, as you know, she signed up to help save the Singlehorns, as you saw in the episode. But then Bumblebee asked her to go find Grimlock and RC so they didn't miss the ceremony. Unfortunately, B kind of gave her the wrong directions, and she ended up in totally the wrong place and kind of had her own Cyberverse adventure. But that's a story for another time. Suffice it to say, she didn't get back to Cybertron until after the whole business with Tarn. And finally, as kind of a reward for you folks who made it all the way through this video, I'd like to answer a question that I see a lot in the comments. Well, maybe a little bit of a clarification until I feel comfortable telling the whole story. You know that I refer to my OC as she/her. So I've gotten a lot of questions about how I identify. For now, I'd like to officially say that I prefer to be referred to by they, them pronouns. In the future, that will probably change. But they, them feels like the best fit for me right now. And I'm not going to be upset with anyone who doesn't know and uses either he, him, or she, her. Certainly not the latter. But I think that'll be a story for a future Q&A. I hope that kind of answers the question that many of you have been asking, at least for now. And I hope that doesn't make you dislike me or my channel. I'll still keep making great videos no matter what. And I hope you'll continue to enjoy them. And that does it for all the questions, at least for now. Of course, please remember to ask your questions for my next Q&A special in the comments of this video, using the hashtag AskUltra18K. Or maybe I should make it AskUltra19K, since I'll probably be at 19,000 subscribers by the time I get to answering them. Either way, thank you all so much for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. You're the ones who help my channel grow. It means a lot to me when I see all your kind comments. They really help keep me going. And honestly, if it wasn't for you, my awesome, amazing, and adorable viewers, I don't think I ever would have gotten to this point. As far as I'm concerned, you're the ones who helped get me mentioned in Cyberverse, because you're all a part of my success. So thank you all so very much. And I'll see you back here next time for another Q&A, hopefully in the near future.